The DTCC is using here Hyperledger Besu as their private permission chain to keep records. And they use these public chains to distribute it. They distribute then these tokenized assets. So they use their own walled garden as an entry point into these other chains. So you see, they all start like these walled gardens that they have. This reality is now actually taking shape. Now we see the walled gardens. We see like the difference between public and private. And we know at some point they can always take down the wall. And I think eventually it will all be public actually at some point.
Orchestration doesn't mean settlement. Orchestration is just like the messaging layer. It's the first step. But then for liquidity and FX to work, you still have to realize the second step as well, which is settlement, which is the way harder problem. If using XRPL is something the clients want, DTCC is able to orchestrate into XRPL as well for the clients. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Krippenreiter TV show. Today I'm back with Vet to talk about the latest news around DTCC and what this may mean for XRP. We will cover what's actually real and happening and what is just wishful thinking. Also the fact that there's actually not much missing on the XRPL to join the party based on all the use cases that were tested by the DTCC. We will also cover the main platform suite that DTCC is offering market participants and translate a little bit of verbiage. And lastly, the potential features that are still missing on XRPL to make the XRPL a good option for the DTCC as well. But before all that, hey Vet, how does it make you actually feel to know that now the largest financial clearinghouse on the world is finally going on chain?
It's a major sign, right? Like this is a major sign. Make no mistake. Like when they made like this promotion video and where they started like, hey, we are doing this. Mm-hmm. You could see on X as well.
This one, right?
This one, but also others where they posted about all these big financial institutions starting to participate in their production tests that they run, tokenizing, doing production trades as well. It just shows, right, that people are, first of all, people are really interested in it, like the institutions, they're really interested in it. It solves a real need. And this could be indeed like the second vertical that we are finally seeing is coming up. We had the stablecoin being like a huge product market fit in crypto. But now we are seeing like the second vertical, which is like tokenization of equities and similar products on chain, which is very, very, very interesting, right? Because I think this is the good path of us increasing the TVL in whole crypto. Yeah. We were stuck with stablecoins basically, and nothing else was like basically going on. Yeah. Stablecoins, and now maybe we see like major pairs against actual equity, right? And I want to remind people, when the SpaceX IPO went live, Hyperliquid had a better pricing of the IPO than TradFi. They were better in estimating the opening price at for a SpaceX than traditional finance, because they need to start first doing like the offers and find a match. And once you have the first match, right, then trading begins. And it took forever. But on Hyperliquid, it was very fast.
What's fascinating is the DTCC also highlighted this as well in their infographic when they say provide access to deeper liquidity. Like there is this infographic where they say, what can tokenization do? Like, what is tokenization even for? Like, why do we need tokenization? And they have this overview where they say it will reduce operational friction. And we talked with Jesse about it, that using tokenization or blockchain in itself will help with making post-trade settlement a lot more efficient and faster. So it will shorten the gap, as it says here, between trade and completion. As we learned with Jesse, there is like trade execution, but after the execution and matching, you have to also do the settlement. And with tokenization on-chain, this will be way better.
This is why I want people to focus really on, and I need to give shout out to the people who intuitively always like were on this front, is like settlement. Because the same problem that is plaguing payments is the same with equity trading, right? Yes. Like you trade equities and at some point you need to settle. It's the same with payments. I make a payment, at some point it needs to settle, right? And so the settlement part is really this key thing, this keystone where all of them struggle. Like payments struggles with settlement. Equity trading, as you were describing, struggles with, at the end, with settlement. So focusing on settlement and making that optimized is, I think, the killer use case here. Is really the killer use case if you look at what these institutions want to do.
Yeah. And they want more flexibility in the sense that they want their assets to be mobile. They want to enhance asset mobility as well, because what can you do if you have something tokenized on chain? You can send it around, right? You can do payments on XRPL, for example. You could do payments and go from one account to another. We will talk about what will also happen in the future with more features coming up on the XRPL. But just basically tokenizing and then being able to provide liquidity and send the token around for maybe even collateral mobility is something that you may think is boring, but this is also already enough for market participants and for the DTCC, for example, to focus on.
It has a huge product market fit, because people need to understand, when you have instant or near instant settlement times that you can, and finality, that saves time. And that time is money. That time is money. Like, you can now think of, hey, maybe I want to provide liquidity. Maybe I want to take out a loan, right, against my equities that I have, or things like this, within hours, within seconds, right? Like, you can do flash loans. All of these things is possible. If settlement takes like days, right, you need to wait. And sometimes opportunity cost, right? Not sometimes, but opportunity cost is eating it all up. So when you look at over the weekend tradings, the 24/7 nature is also a big one. We need to keep in mind 24/7 is big. Yeah. So it reduces margin, it reduces cost. We have seen like the interview with Mike Higgins from Ripple Prime, where he was saying, hey, you know, with instant settlement of these things, you can now reduce the cost for participants and for margin as well, because it becomes lower, because risk is decreasing, because you can post collateral at any time. Settlement, really, it comes back to that, and improving this unlocks just liquidity, unlocks capital, unlocks yield, all of it.
What I think is pretty fascinating is that the road to this point where we're realizing that settlement is what the DTCC is after, it's not like they took 10 years for this. They actually started in December 2023. So it's not like this is something that started 5 or 10 years ago. It started in December already, just a few years ago. Then they already started their digital launchpad, then ComposerX as well. This is something we'll talk in a second as well. And then it really shows that the moment the SEC gave the no action letter to the DTCC is basically when it scaled. This is when they realized, okay, now is the time where we can go all in. Again, regulation, right? It's not really technical, because the technical fundamentals are there. And the one thing that the DTCC was struggling with is just the regulation. And now with the help of the SEC no action letter, they could actually start announcing their first partners. And the first partner was Canton, which is a little bit weird, I would say, because Canton is new. They just launched the token 2 years ago. So it's not like Canton is like a decade-old blockchain that has a lot of Lindy effect, basically. It's new. So this was surprising to me to find out that Canton is one of the first that were adopted. Then also, as we all know, a Chainlink as well. And then also the last blockchain that got announced was Stellar. Yeah, but to know, maybe what's interesting to keep in mind is that Stellar was announced, but it was announced in the sense that they will start tokenizing on Stellar in 2027. Yeah, 2027. Because many people, me included, we believed maybe that they will start on the 15th of July already. But this is actually not the case. Like the 15th of July milestone was not when Stellar was already used. They used Hyperledger Bezo and they used Canton. Yeah.
Which makes sense, because the thing is, they like from a pilot point of view, right? You want to start with one, and one that you can also have more control. Something new as Canton, and also with the control that people have over Canton, it's less permissionless. If you look into the architecture than others, you have more control. This is good, right? Like you want an environment that has more control. So I'm not surprised in that sense that they chose a more controlled environment to start off. While then to go to more decentralized options where it's way harder to control that environment. And also, I want to remind people, this is like the vision when we talked about the early ones from David Schwartz and others. This is the walled garden, basically, analogy. The DTCC is using here Hyperledger Besu as their private permission chain to keep records, right? So this is where they basically tokenize the records and have basically all of this in. And they use these public chains to distribute it, right? They distribute then these tokenized assets. So they use their own walled garden as an entry point into these other chains, which is, by the way, a very common theme these days. If you look at Swift, Swift, their shared private ledger, right, that they have, permissioned ledger is also Hyperledger Besu, and they also use it as they call orchestration layer. Also, the same wording as Circle was using for the Arc blockchain. So you see, they all start like these walled gardens that they have. This reality is now actually taking shape. Previously, we were like, walled gardens, what does it mean? You know, like when David, but now we see the walled gardens and we see like the difference between public and private. And we know at some point, right, they can always take down the wall and go into the public. I think eventually it will all be public actually at some point.
Just like internet.
Just the internet. I like to see all the mechanisms that they use, the tech stack that they have. You know, they start with Hyperledger Besu as where they start the tokenization. Then they use more public permission blockchains like Canton, and then more public like Stellar to distribute. So this is distribution. And then you have like these different orchestration layers, life cycles that they have, like you mentioned ComposerX, which is basically where people can then actually mint the token, actually move the tokens out. They use, of course, the oracles from Chainlink. So I like how they put the things together. The way that they put these things together makes a lot of sense. I have to say, this is where they show expertise. This is where they show, hey, this is DTCC. When you look at the tech stack, how they built it up, this is not an amateur, and this is like basically, I think, their fingerprint.
I think what's also important to understand is that orchestration doesn't mean settlement. Orchestration is just like the messaging layer. It's the first step. But then for liquidity and FX to work, you still have to realize the second step as well, which is settlement, which is the way, way harder problem. But you can build on top of the settlement layer. As you said, you have to distribute these tokens, but how do you even tokenize and manage them? And this is where ComposerX is coming into play. And I want to highlight ComposerX because many people have the misunderstanding that now that Canton and Stellar and maybe Chainlink is in Hyperledger Besu is out, that this is it. More is not coming. Like this is all that what they are going after. But this is not the case. This is not true. And we will see this very clearly when we go over these three parts. Like they have ComposerX Factory, ComposerX Ledger Scan, and ComposerX Capital Markets Platform. And these are the three parts that make up for ComposerX to not only tokenize, but aggregate visibility and then manage the full life cycle of the token. But
think of it like an app when people think.
Exactly.
Like think of it as an app. Like how do you interact even with what we just talked, right? Specifically the Hyperledger Besu part. Like how do you interact with it really?
Right.
This is sort of your institutional
the UI on top, right?
The UI, this is your institutional, you could say. I don't want to mention a specific platform, but your favorite DEX platform and like these places. Think of that and as how you interact with it. It's like when you go to a marketplace, right? And you say, I want to create a token, right? You mint a token, you give some money, and then it mints you a token.
Exactly.
On the XRP Ledger, but you interact with it through this platform.
Right.
So how do you interact with the Hyperledger Besu from
same idea,
ComposerX, yes.
And the beautiful thing about this is for ComposerX, because words have meaning, right? They say they will use an open framework. So ComposerX Factory will be an open framework, and you will be able to manage and launch tokens across any protocol. This is very important, any protocol. They're not saying manage and launch tokens on Stellar only or on Canton only. They say any protocol using an open framework with your preferred standards. And what this just highlights is the client decides on which platform they want to tokenize on. So if they want at some point in the future to tokenize also on XRPL because their preferred standard is tokenizing on XRPL, they can use ComposerX Factory to do exactly this. And then they can use Ledger Scan to aggregate and normalize transactions across all these ledgers as long as they are digital and traditional. So they're not saying traditional and Hyperledger BISO, they're saying traditional and digital ledger. So as long as your ledger is digitized, you can use a ledger scan. And then the last point is markets platform, where they say
it's an explorer, basically. By the way,
exactly. It's basically an explorer, and there are also, I think, there are also pictures out there. A little bit got leaked already about how this all looks like. And they say manage the full life cycle of tokenized assets built for harmonization and integration. Our platform is DLT-agnostic. Again, just like with Ripple and their products. If you are like DTCC or if you are legitimate, you have to just be agnostic. You cannot say I will only use one protocol. You have to be agnostic, and you have to be protocol flexible, right?
If you need to be everywhere, that's the first. But we have to be also very clear. That's only on client demand, right? In client demand. So just because you can be integrated doesn't mean you will be integrated, right? Because it meets the client.
Exactly.
And it's also no implication of usage. That's also a thing. So when I look at Stellar, for example, it's great, right? But I will be, of course, looking what is going to be the usage there on Stellar, right? Just because a lot of people saw the news and they were like, oh, everything's going to move to Stellar. You need to see, like what is the actual usage is going to be like. But you need to be agnostic. Just very, very similar with RLUSD, with Ripple. It's on XRP Ledger and it's on Ethereum. First, it started to be a lot on Ethereum. Now we have seen a huge shift towards the XRP Ledger. There's just more usage on the XRP Ledger for RLUSD.
More demand.
More demand, right? So more people want liquidity to have on the XRP Ledger from RLUSD, and it's cool that they're using this because some people remember ComposerX is actually they bought this. It was previously called Securrency, and they bought this for I think 50 million or something or 100 million, and back when they started doing this,
we saw this in the
2023 initiative.
Securrency acquisition.
Securrency acquisition. That's where it started because they need essentially an application layer to orchestrate that. But again, for me, the really interesting part here is that for people to understand, this is a private blockchain that they used to start and then distribute to the world, right?
Exactly.
How they distribute this to the world, this is what we just talked about, right? So technical things. But the fact is they want to distribute to the world. And world means like everybody. Ethereum, Solana, XRP Ledger, of course, Stellar, you name it.
And they already hinted at it as well. They said, we are working with Canton, Stellar, and a few others. Obviously, I don't know about this picture. Maybe it's wrong. I don't know where this comes from. But Chainlink got already proposed Stellar and Canton, and Ripple as Ripple Custody and Ripple Prime. Like these are the two products that were mentioned in the pilot as well. If XRPL will be used is up for the time to make up. Like we will see if using XRPL is something the clients want. But if they want it, DTCC is able to orchestrate into XRPL as well for the clients.
Exactly. That's what they provide. And plus, there's also no reason to not disclose that when they would do, right? Like if you go to the website, they say, hey, these networks are now our clients are using. So you can see Canton, Stellar, I think a third one too. I forgot
Tokenization, and then you can go to eligible networks. And then you see the three that are current networks.
Yeah, the app chain, that's the Hyperledger. Yeah, that's their under Ethereum. Yeah, Canton and Stellar. Yes. So it will be interesting to see that ComposerX that they're using, how specifically this also works in the sense of, do they need to whitelist chains, right? Or do they mean with it's open to anyone, that anyone can use Composer, right? Like if I want to use Composer, I can deploy it on my chain, right? Or do I need to be whitelisted from them to my assumption is probably there is something like this where so that you can transfer between the Hyperledger Bizu and others. So they need to whitelist you. Goes back to the client part. You need to be a client essentially. Yeah, and Ripple is a huge client. So there you go.
Yeah, we already know that Ripple Prime is a client, a big one, and then we also know from their live ticker that they put out when they started the go-to production, basically, that they also use Ripple, not XRP, but Ripple as their custodial partner for the DVD use case. So delivery versus delivery. And if we look at the words they used, we realize that programmability was important for them. So programmability, they said, is equal to smart contracts. It's open for debate if they said this because smart contracts is really needed or if they just didn't know any better.
It depends really on what you need, right? That's the thing. Like if you say I need clawback and things like that, on other chains you need smart contracts.
Right.
They on XRP Ledger not. If you look at the Tempo blockchain, Tempo came out and said basically we have something like trust lines. Nobody can send you tokens. Well, on XRP Ledger also not. On native, right? It's just
right. Yeah. So most of the time on XRPL there's no need for smart contracts because all these smart contract features that are smart contracts on other blockchains are already native and fixed as a function on XRPL. Also, privacy. Most. We will see how this will evolve with smart extensions as well. Maybe even XLS 101 we will see. But the tendency, I hope, on XRPL will always be fixed functions primitives first, and then build around whatever is missing to make these primitives more powerful. And one part to make it more powerful is privacy. This is also something they highlighted to scale and assure. And what they use for this is zero knowledge proof. And we had this interview with Anshal, and she said the same. She said the same thing. If we want to scale, we may use zero knowledge proofs as the second layer to do scaling and privacy on layer one.
Zero knowledge proof is like this two-sided things where it's privacy, but it's also scalability. And we have seen like from multiple people, I need to highlight the Ethereum side. They are very, very heavily at zero knowledge proof. If anyone is focusing and looking what the hardcore blockchain folks are really focused on, it's zero knowledge proof. If you look at Apex 2025, Ripple and others, what was the main focus? Zero knowledge proof. It was all privacy, zero knowledge proof. Big topic. Can't wait to see with confidential transfers coming very soon to the XRP Ledger in a few weeks as an amendment, XLS 96 for MPTs. Very excited. We're making great steps here to bring all of this native enough what people want to use, need to use, without overwhelming. And that's what the XRP Ledger is all about, to facilitate basically the most interesting use cases for TradFi.
Also, maybe to summarize what the DTCC was looking after and what the XRPL is shipping to may be part of this as well. What the DTCC did was they tested a few use cases, and all of them were successful, by the way. And as we found out, right, they used Canton and Hyperledger Bisou for this, and also Chainlink. And what they tested was collateral pledge, so credit market, lending, borrowing. They did treasury repo, so short-term collateralized loan. Equity delivery versus payments, so anything that is a transfer of equities happening in the same time whenever you transfer cash, so it's locked on both sides, and if the condition is met, they can exchange. Then equity token conversion, this is just tokenization, so creating a digital twin of your original and then create a representative of this on chain. And then equity DVD trade, so instant trustless swaps, and CCP margin, which was on-chain collateral. And then the last part was cross-chain conversion. So how do you swap from one chain, let's say Hyperledger Bisou, or let's say Stellar, and then how do you convert on let's say Canton, and how do you orchestrate this? And what I found out is just the fact that if we read through all these use cases, most of them can be realized with batch, right? All the DVP, DVD, lending, borrowing, you just need lending market and batch.
But what it tells me is that interoperability is like one of the big things here. I mean, they use Chainlink. I would have loved to them use something else. Very important. They're not using Wormhole. They're not using XLR. That's also actually for me an interesting clue. I have to say.
Yeah. So they're going, in terms of orchestration, they're going less into the blockchain world and more into the network world where there's no need for basically an underlying blockchain. They want this to be basically off-chain in a sense.
It is off-chain, exactly. I mean, Wormhole is also off-chain. They are not. It's also a message. Basically, you have signatures. XLR is the only one who is like really a blockchain. Maybe it's more secure. I have not looked into the actual Chainlink CCIP, but I know a lot of stablecoin issuers are using it, like USDC is using it. Paxos, PayPal USD is also using it. So from that point of view, that is interesting. But I think it's also interesting to see they are not using here any of these legacy frameworks. So I haven't looked into R3 Corda. That wasn't mentioned there, right? So that was interesting to me. They haven't mentioned much around on the Solana side, which also surprised me. I would have expected that. Maybe Solana's going to use more R3 Corda. We will see.
And maybe that's still upcoming, because they said a few others. Maybe this is like something they're working on in the backend, but it's not integrated in a way that they are comfortable to say this is now live and this is working and we will actually use it. And maybe this is still upcoming.
Yeah. Yes. Something else I want to mention here real quick is that when you look at all of these equity issuers, right? Like we have and there would be also an issuer essentially, right? There's a lot of competition on this. There's a lot of competition on this. A lot of people are issuing. And I wonder if that's sort of the swift path where the more they integrate actually with the blockchain, the more they become obsolete because settlement and all that everybody else can do, right? And their edge is basically, I have connections. The DTCC is the same thing. I have connections. That's the edge. It's not your infrastructure anymore in that case, because that is pretty much anybody can do it, right? Anybody can do it. Yeah, we will see. I'm rooting definitely for the startups, for the people who are looking to disrupt those.
For sure.
The Ondo.
The Ondo, they are just smaller, more efficient.
Yes.
It's mostly the case that also in the past that the giants were disrupted by just a few people building something that is just more powerful, more efficient. And because the old giants are just so clunky, they have no way to contend against these way smaller teams that are way more flexible, way faster in adoption, and they can also change a lot faster than big company that has to follow a lot more rules. Maybe they have a lot more paperwork to do than the small teams. It will change, and I think I hope actually that the smaller teams will win this, because then the smaller teams can get big again, and then we have disrupted the very old parties. Or maybe the very old parties are just buying up the smaller teams. Who knows? Could also happen.
That would be interesting, right?
What stops BlackRock, for example, buying Ondo?
Exactly. The thing is always like that both sides might think they are better well off doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So if you look maybe from a startup point of view, you say, hey, we can overtake those giants and take it all for ourselves. The big ones say, well, once we enter, they don't matter, right? Like we're going to just smash them.
Yeah.
And so I think both sides are like sort of, hey, we can do better without. That's why I was like so critical about the OpenUSD, open standard stablecoin, because there were like giants and small people, and everybody thinks so they can do better. So the middle path, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe to wrap this up, what I think is pretty cool is that, as we said with the use cases, there's not much left. We found out that batch is missing for most of what they are talking here. Then also lending is pretty big. Like if we read through all these use cases, a lot is just the credit market.
Yeah, what I would say is like with all of these things that they mentioned, I would really love to see also from them more of a specification exactly how they want to how they're looking to have this done, right? Because if you say I want lending and borrowing, this is so broad.
Yeah, it could be everything and nothing, right?
There's so many flavors, right? And so how do you exactly look to do this, right? A combination, collateralized, or maybe specifically under collateralized. Hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they want to have like more off-chain underwritings.
Yeah.
Could be, right? This would be like play into our hands massively. And what they're looking for batch, what they're looking for the tokenization part. Maybe some of the tokenization part falls right into our MPT standard, which gives you like this extra field where you can specify contract and maturity, all of these things.
Yeah, could be.
I would love to see like more of this, even like from an interoperability point of view. Can you maybe show us like exactly what you're looking for interoperability so other people can plug into like Interledger protocol? So I would love to see more specification on this. But just from a use case point of view, I would say we would pretty much have it all, or almost like it's almost there on the chain.
Like the big part is tokenization. I mean, it's a tokenization service, and we have tokenization for over 14 years now. So that's not something we're lacking.
We know tokenization.
We know it very well.
Best in class for settlement, because that's what we focus on, and that's what they identify as a major bottleneck. I really love that they basically did this whole initiative. This should make everybody really bullish that they are moving on chain and that they are experimenting and doing all of these things, right? Working it out. I know it's not easy to navigate this, but it's a really good sign for the industry.
Yeah. And to end this interview, I want to quote Aaron Sokasian, I hope the name is right, CTO from Drive12, where he says, "This technology is just going to continue to be adopted." I think this just fits perfectly, and this is also what I think.
They finna use it. That's what we say.
Yeah, they will. They are going to. And the next step will be October. And then, as the DTCC already hinted at, it will be a gradual process. They will scale in small steps, but they are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then in 2027 is when this will be fully fledged.
That's a big one. I think 2027, everybody should look for 2027. The next year looks to be a very interesting year for tokenization.
Yeah.
Looking at also our amendments, our features on the XRP Ledger, it's very promising that we have like a lot of these on chain tested already. Projects have been building, liquidity has been bootstrapped, hopefully, right? For 2027, it really looks like a very, very promising year.
Yeah, and for this, thank you, Vet. As always, super cool. I think, as we learned today, the DTCC is going on-chain. They are going into production, which is super bullish. And
they're agnostic.
And they're agnostic, very important. They are, again, favoring an open framework and protocol flexible, agnostic approach to blockchain. So super
You want
bullish.
to be everywhere.
Yeah, XRPL could be a part. We will see if the clients want XRPL. If they want XRPL, the XRPL is ready whenever they want. So on this, thank you, Vet, and see you next time, guys. Ciao, ciao.